Hey everyone, it's Llama here with some more iRacing. I've got a lot of ground to cover today, so we're going to get straight into it with a quick look at my first road races, and then we're going to move on to the oval. I ran my first road race at the back end of week 2. It was in the Global Mazda MX-5 Cup, which was running at Okayama that week. Despite practicing and time trialling quite well, I still managed to spin like a total idiot on the first lap. Luckily, I wasn't the only one, so I only finished one place down from where I started. It wasn't a promising start, but it could have been a lot worse. My second race went a lot better. I wasn't fast by anyone's standards, but I ran a clean race and ended up in 5th place. Mostly this was because other people crashed or quit. The road isn't my main focus, but I'll try and dip in every now and then. I'm quite close to getting my D license, I just need to get my safety rating up a tiny bit, so I need to run a few more races. I've got nothing to report from Legends this week. I ran a couple of races, but they aren't really worth watching. I just ran in the midfield on my own mostly. They were all very clean though. There don't seem to be a lot of incidents in the Legends series. Although it's open to a lot of license categories, it's a bit of a niche, and the frontrunners all seem to be members for a couple of years, so they have a lot of experience with this car and running on these circuits. Also, it turns out that half the field appear to be real-life late model drivers, so I'll never be able to compete with these guys, but I still enjoy driving the car, and I enjoy the series, so I'm going to keep going with it. So on to the street stocks. They were at Charlotte this week, that was week 3, and this time we're running at night. I think it looks pretty cool under all the lights, all the cars look nice and glossy. Has a real race meeting feel to it. Since I was here last, I've learnt a couple of new tricks. Turns out the suggested driving line was a little bit too cautious. It says you need to lift in the turns, especially in 3 and 4. Turns out you don't have to lift at all at any point. In fact, you could just stick a brick on the accelerator and you'll do just fine. This, combined with a better wheel configuration, really helped my lap times compared to my first visit to Charlotte. Unfortunately, it didn't help with my qualifying too much. I started this first race in 10th place. But, in my defence, it was a close field. There was only a couple of thousandths of a second separating me from the cars in front and behind. Things got off to a pretty good start. I was running in quite a large pack, with a fairly good safety margin behind me. I think my newfound knowledge on this track really made a difference in the way I was running. Right now I'm really keeping pace with everyone, certainly in a way that I hadn't done before. I didn't have anything like the kind of nerves I had in my first race here, but there was always that healthy little bit of apprehension that keeps you from doing anything silly. And I was quite excited. Running here under the lights in this pack, it was pretty cool. And of course there we have the inevitable. I managed to get through the pack pretty well there, make up quite a few places. It all happened very quickly, but I just happened to be in the right place at the right time to get through, with only a little bit of a nudge from one of the other cars. So this puts me up into 4th place. These two cars are weaving around a little bit on the road, so I was just keeping a respectful distance. Turns out that was the right decision. There we go. Again, I got a little bit of a dent on the side of my car, but I came through unscathed and ended up in 2nd. There was a bit of an argument up at the top of the screen about who caused, I think, that last crash, and the first crash in fact. It was quite a chatty bunch in this race. So I ran on my own for a long time, as usual. Eventually a car came up behind me, and that's when I knew I had to start racing again. Unfortunately I gave him a little bit too wide a berth and he ended up getting past me. Now either he slowed down or the drafting effect here was quite strong, because I ended up getting right up behind him, but I just never seemed to have the pace to get past him. In fact, I had to back off a few times to stop myself from running into him. Maybe I could have got past him, I don't know. I didn't really feel like taking a big chance when I was running so well. Perhaps in the future I'll get better at this, but this is the best I've ever run, so I didn't want to blow it by doing anything stupid. We've got quite a lot of laps to go, and eventually I did manage to almost get past him. Just managed to get a momentary lead, but unfortunately I couldn't keep it. He runs a little bit wide on the corner. That leaves me room to go up the inside, but I couldn't really make it stick. So I ended up running low here, which isn't a line I'm particularly comfortable with, starting that low in the corner, so I lost a bit of speed, and then he got past me again. There's a bunch of cars which are catching up behind. I think the little fight that I was having with this 15 car here slowed us both down a little bit, let everyone else catch up. Here with one lap to go, I lost a bit of speed because I got right up behind the 15. I don't know whether he blocked or whether, I don't know, I just got a good draft, and I get a little bump up the rear. And this is right at the end of the race, and so that blew my safety rating for the entire race. I ended up getting a 0.01 increase when it should have been considerably higher. I'm not complaining too much though, because I ended up in third place, which is the best finish I've ever had in iRacing, and judging by my performance later in the week, the best finish I'm probably going to have for quite a while. So checkered flag, over the line, and a top 3 finish. So I was flying high from that one. That was a really good race. Maybe could have got second if I'd pushed a bit harder, but I'm not gonna complain with the third place finish at all. Very satisfied. Now on to the race that I'm sure you've been waiting for. You've seen it in the title card, so I think you can probably guess what's coming. It was my second Street Stocks race of the week, and it was another tight field, one that I started maybe a little too close to the back in. I was in 12th place. Things started off pretty well. I was keeping up with the pack, and it looked like I was going to have a good race on my hands. That was, of course, until lap 3. Now, I'm not sure what I could have done to avoid this. I knew there was a crash ahead, but I wasn't expecting the black car to come back up the road. By the time I saw what was happening, it was just too late to react. I ended up on my roof and having to get towed back to the pits. I was determined to keep going though, and I finished the race in 12th, where I started. Running to the end of the race I think helped to limit the damage somewhat. Although the low finish did compromise my iRating a little bit, I actually only lost 0.01 off my safety rating, which for a big crash like that isn't too bad. My third race of the week almost ended the same way, as I went for a little detour across the infield while avoiding a crash. I just got tipped by another car who maybe hadn't reacted as quickly as I did. Funnily enough, it was the same car that I T-boned in the previous race. I don't blame him though. It was all a big mess for everyone involved, and my little tiptoe through the tulips was nothing compared to what could have happened if I'd actually stayed on the track. After narrowly avoiding a penalty for an unsafe pit entry, I managed to get back on the track and came home in 7th. That was enough to regain a bit of the iRating I'd lost in the previous race, and I also managed to get the 0.01 I lost from my safety rating. So that's it for this week. As we can see, I've had the full iRacing Street Stocks experience now. I can see why people are glad to get out of it, but I'll still be running until the end of the season. I don't think I could really compete in the next series up. I'm just not fast enough. and I don't feel like investing in cars and tracks without really knowing if I'll play long term. From next week I'm going to start trying to be a little bit more informative. In the first episode I said that I would be trying to provide a view of iRacing from the beginner's perspective. So far I've shown a lot of the beginner racing, but I haven't really explained an awful lot about how the game works or shared any good advice for someone who is maybe thinking of getting into it. So hopefully things won't be as eventful next week and I'll have a bit more time to do that. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.